revolution will be live.
Welcome to Mojo at the Movies. I'm Eric, and joining me today, a very special guest, is actually a man who's usually behind the camera. It's our esteemed director, Manny. He's here with us. He's a huge comic book fan and a huge fan of superhero movies. And, well, we're talking about what movie today?
We're talking about Black Panther, the
Right.
movie I forced you to take me to. I pretty much gave you no option to.
Kicking and screaming.
Kicking and screaming.
And the movie, pretty good. Pretty good.
It was pretty amazing, actually.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you as a huge fan of comics and a huge fan of superheroes, what did you think?
One thing I love when you go into a comic book movie like this is when they get the lore and the world right. And walking into this not knowing much about Black Panther, I was completely immersed in a world and I kind of believed everything. I loved him when he showed up in Civil War, and I loved him in this. I thought everything was really well handled. Chadwick Boseman, amazing performance as
Isn't
Black
he?
Panther. And everybody in the overall movie, all their characters, everything was just spot on, amazing.
Well, credit has to go to Ryan Coogler, the director.
Yes,
So
for
here's
sure.
a guy who started, he kind of came out of nowhere in Fruitvale Station and then really cemented his, his reputation as a go-to guy with Creed, which was a great movie.
Which was a great movie.
Yeah.
And also, I'm pretty sure, helped Michael B. Jordan get the spot in this one.
Yeah, well, Michael B. Jordan has been in all his movies at this point,
Yes.
right? Yeah. And so Ryan Coogler really created this world that existed on paper in the comics, but to then translate that to the big screen and to work it such that it works as a standalone movie, but it also fits in the grander universe, the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
And giving us like iconic locations from that world, like Warriors Falls, which is where the king kind of does his trials and his challenges, and just that was something really nice to see. The way it was set up, the color palette in this movie is
beautiful.
so different from like this. A lot of the Phase 2 Marvel movies had like this dark gray kind of like depressive color palette, and the first one was very comic booky. You know, every movie had like a theme. Like we had a Norse mythology theme with Thor. We had the techie kind of like blue and teal color palette with Iron Man. Then we got this vibrant World War II epic with Captain America, and then Avengers.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
And then Guardians of the Galaxy was just like attack on the senses with the music. And in this movie too, the music in this movie is...
Well, Kendrick Lamar, I think, was responsible for, it's not all his music, but he kind of executive produced the soundtrack.
Great job.
And you mentioned the look of the movie, and especially that scene when they're on the falls, and it just, you're totally immersed in it. I gotta also talk about the cast. I mean, not only Chadwick Boseman, who does, in my mind, he is Black Panther. Nobody else could have ever been or will be a better Black Panther. But I mean, you've got a great cast. You've got Angela Bassett. You've got Michael B. Jordan, who we named, who people are saying are, or is the ultimate Marvel villain.
Yeah, well, he plays a character called Killmonger, which is very important in the Black Panther lore. And I find what they did with that character, obviously, like in all movies, they took a few liberties with him, but they really made him one of the most memorable characters. And he's kind of like, all his actions are justified for him from his perspective, and the way they do his character arc kind of really opens up this door that where you question, is he really wrong? Or is he really right? Or is this the way it's got to go
Right,
down?
there was a lot of nuances.
There's a lot of nuances in this movie. It makes you think.
One thing is for sure, this is a very important movie in that it's empowering. It's a positive representation. I came out of there feeling empowered, and I felt good about it, but I can only imagine what it's like for the Black community to have this superhero character. We're not talking about Blade, who was he was a vampire, or
Spawn,
or Spawn. These dark characters.
Reborn from hell.
This guy is basically, he's the king of an unconquered African nation, and he's more skilled than Batman, probably more technologically advanced than Iron Man, and I'm reading tweets by people who are saying, finally, I feel like I can identify with this character. So this movie resonated very deeply with me, and I'm sure it will with a general audience. But for the Black community, I mean, this is a huge moment because it's inspiring, and it's a new wave of positivity.
And it's not banging you over the head with it and kind of like trying to get it in there. It's like it just exists and everything is, and it's amazing. It's the way the whole film was depicted and the way they interact with the rest of the world, like Wakanda as such an amazing superpower, the way it like interacts with everything else around it is it's very well executed.
I think you mentioned an interesting point that you know, this was entertaining. It didn't hit you over the head. It wasn't cloaking its message in some kind of overwrought, overdramatic thing. It's a blockbuster. It's fun, and the message is the movie itself.
Yes.
The fact that we can have fun and we can be positive and everybody can feel represented. And you also, you know, when we were talking before, you mentioned women and you know
the women are badass in this movie. My favorite character is actually Okoye, who is the general of the Dora Milaje, which is like Black Panther's personal bodyguard, which he doesn't need, but it's cool that he has it. And she just, every scene she's in, she owns it, and I was blown away. I think I was telling you in the theater, I'm like, that's my favorite character. She's my favorite. Like,
and Lupita Nyong'o, she also, I mean, all
amazing,
the women in this
yeah.
movie, it's almost like they were cooler than the guys.
Big time.
They actually were way
Black
cooler
Panther's
than the guys.
sister Shuri was so smart,
Right.
which in my books, I think she's smarter than Tony Stark, which I think I would love to see maybe in Infinity War if we could see those two characters kind of talk tech, compare the technology from Wakanda and what Steve Rogers, that's Captain America,
Right.
Tony Stark has been doing. I don't know, I'm pretty excited for that.
Well, that's the thing, is that we don't want to give away any spoilers, right? This is,
Yeah.
so there's so much that we want to say
There's
that we
so
can't
much, but we
say.
can.
But I'm wondering how you think this fits into the larger Marvel Cinematic Universe. Because, I mean, essentially, Black Panther was one of the original Avengers.
He's one of the early Avengers, not one of the originals, but he's one of the earlier ones. And I just love the fact that now in Marvel we're seeing Phase 3, and we're kind of seeing which heroes will kind of like head and be in charge of Phase 3 and have bigger roles. Obviously, Phase 1 was the Iron Man, Thor, and Captain America. And in this one, we see that they're putting a lot of concentration on Ant-Man is playing a bigger role. Right. Obviously, Black Panther's playing a bigger role. The Guardians are playing a bigger role. And we're getting Captain Marvel soon. So I think that they're just expanding the universe, and they've built us up these characters, but they've given us such satisfying character arcs with the other ones that it's not necessary for us to try to like hold on. Like I think where DC is kind of weak in that aspect is that Batman everything. Batman has to be in everything. If there's no Batman, there's no DC universe, right?
Right.
Which I find is a bit silly. And here it's like, here's an amazing character. Here's us taking care and giving this character what he deserves. And he's just as relatable as a Captain America or a Tony Stark or a Thor. You know, like, it's amazing. And it fits into the cinematic universe perfectly. It doesn't bounce back in time. It's such a perfect little chapter. And even if you cut out everything that we learned in Civil War and everything else, the movie on its own is
It's a standalone,
solid.
yes,
it's
absolutely.
very solid. It opens up to a sequel, everything, you know? Like, obviously these movies are done in 3. It's not a big surprise that, oh, there might be another one. There's gonna be another one, you know?
So, you know, if you think about it, Marvel have been very smart, because they could have, as you said, just gone with their A-listers. But they've managed to, with Guardians of the Galaxy, with Ant-Man, with this movie, they've created as entertaining, if not more entertaining, you know, these offshoots that I think are gonna expand the universe that much more.
Yeah, big time. I mean, this is the next step that Marvel's taking, that is, they're pretty much saying, like, we understand our characters, we believe in our characters, and we believe in giving good stories, good adventures, just like when you pick up a comic book and you can connect with any one of these movies, and they're gonna be just as entertaining as the last movie. Sometimes we'll get a Thor, the second Thor, but I mean, it's forgivable because they come back.
And then you get
strong.
Thor Ragnarok.
And then we get
everything.
Ragnarok, or we get a Winter Soldier, which is my favorite movie of every Marvel movie that was made, is that one.
So where does this fit into, can I ask you that?
Sure.
Of all the Marvel movies, where does Black Panther fit in for you?
I think it's a strong, like, I think it's like a second.
Whoa!
I think it's like a second. As much as I enjoyed the entire, like, the whole, I think it's like a balance between this and Age of Ultron for me was one of my favorites, because Ultron is one of my favorite type of Marvel villains, because he's kind of like a mistake villain who just realized he's better than everybody, and he's like, you know what, I'm just gonna take over. You guys seem to be doing a horrible job at being mankind, so I'm gonna take over.
I'm still waiting for them to get the Hulk right. But listen, there's so much stuff that we want to say, but we don't want to spoil anything. So, you know, go check out the movie. Let us know what you think in the comments, and we'll be back with more. Thanks, Manny.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you, guys.
I am ready.
My heart don't skip a beat even when hard times bumps the needle.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out these other great clips from WatchMojo and subscribe for new videos every day.